this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso. We're hearing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, being on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We put out it in all those ways in order to make it, well, the most accessible for you all, wherever you are most comfortable, most interested, most able to get at us. You certainly can. But also those social media aspects have those interesting extra possibilities. The commentary that comes throughout, I often find very life-giving, even if I get a lot of questions about how do we manage that. I don't know, but we keep doing it every day, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And John Hertz commenting about those new IRS jobs. I'm not quite sure if they were posting remote IRS sniper jobs here, but yes, I've been seeing a lot of the posts. Some of you all have been sending me some of those mentions of the ability to and willingness to use a firearm. Yeah, for a tax agency, I can see that immediately off the bat being concerning, but as much as that continues to develop, a lot of stuff happening here within the Lone Star State and even immediately in our Borderland region. Our interview today going to be, well, kind of related, not exactly to that. Don't know if he's a sniper anyway. Going to be talking with UTEP professor Tom Fullerton, with the, of course, economics professor, as well as with the Border Region Modeling Project and that Borderland Business Barometer that has been coming out lately and that we're going to definitely be delving into with that very consequential question of, well, recession. Is it coming here? What's it going to be? So we'll be delving into that a whole lot further, as we also have Eric von Holstein-Rathlau joining us over on the social media there. Again, the comments coming in throughout are pretty much the reason we put it up on social media. I mean, the video is nice too if you're into that kind of thing. But then also getting into it here today, we have at least well, we're going to play a little bit of audio for you that is very carefully edited from a bit of the campaign trail visit happening a little bit earlier here yesterday, actually, in an O'Rourke campaign stop that ended up getting a little bit of spicy language there. We've got the clip for you with the majority of the spiciness removed. Don't worry, we're not putting our license at risk, but getting to the conversation, what the Abbott campaign is already saying about that, among other things, as well as, well, some of those immigration situations and specifically the chases or crashes happening from them happening a little bit close to home here, personally and station-wise speaking. We'll get into that as well. So again, however you wanted to be tuned in for us here, we'll also have, those, of course, those phone lines open a little bit later in the hour, as we usually do right after our interview there. So, yep, a lot of concepts, a lot of things we'll be delving into here. So let's start right off the bat here with, again, that little bit of a, let's just call it spiciness going on in the Borderland here. The title from Dottie Butler-Torres saying Betito Potty Mouth, similar actually to the headline here from our news partners over there at KFOX 14, Beto's bomb. It may be funny to you, but, well, let's just say we'll play the clip for you. You can get the context for yourself here. During a campaign stop from the O'Rourke campaign during this whole roughly 3-month experience they're going on. I mean, 70 days at least, better part of, let's just call it that. Stopping in at the Crazy Water Hotel in Mineral Wells, Texas. Of course, stumping in the many ways on the many issues he's had, of course, coming up and the way he has been pushing and the response to the whole Uvalde situation and the many legislative things that he has previously focused on and continuing to push for. I know there's been a lot of commentary, but let's just say we've got the clip here for you from the O'Rourke campaign, from the live stream of it. And here's what he had and was saying and the response there for it. So again, this is directly from that campaign event happening yesterday. Again, Crazy Water Hotel in Mineral Wells.
Now 11 weeks since we lost 19 kids and their 2 teachers shot to death with a weapon originally designed for use in combat, legally purchased by an 18-year-old who did not try to obtain one when he was 16 or 17, but followed the law that's on the books, ladies and gentlemen, that says that you can buy not one, you can buy 2 or more if you want to, AR-15s, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and take that weapon that was originally designed for use on the battlefields in Vietnam to penetrate an enemy soldier's helmet at 500 feet and knock him down dead, up against kids at 5 feet. It may be funny to you, but it's not funny to me, okay?
So, yes, we don't usually end up editing much of campaign speeches being made by many of the politicians we talk with, but obviously had to make a slight adjustment there as, yes, was an F-bomb dropped there by O'Rourke in response to, you may have been able to hear it. If not, there was an audible laugh pretty close to wherever the camera was, and then people turning towards it here. And RJ commenting on some of those crashes. Get to that here in a second. But yeah, being noted that it couldn't be seen on camera there, but multiple news outlets, including our news partners at KFOX 14, noting that the heckler, as it's being referred to there, the one laughing you could have heard, was noted as holding a Governor Greg Abbott campaign sign. And then, yeah, the response you heard there, not much happened in the next minutes. I know I'm probably going to have someone ask me why did we play so much of the clip and not just the bleep part, but the important aspects of also the discussion, the way it's going on to here, get to that in a second. Response immediately already coming from the Abbott campaign, rather, saying that the man who O'Rourke swore at while he was discussing the Uvalde school shooting isn't affiliated with his campaign. Greg Abbott campaign spokesman confirmed that in a statement. And it's also been noted that since that incident at Robb Elementary, the multiple dozens more that died there, O'Rourke has been pushing for gun reforms. However, he has backed off his earlier promise to take assault weapons from their owners, being noted in some outlets. So the reason I played that full clip there is to go into a little bit on the way it's being discussed and the way that he was talking about it here, very much focused. Okay, I'm just going to call it in line with that assault weapons ban of 2022 that we have not really delved into much on this program anyway, but has been percolating to an extent through nationally. Sounds very much in line with that, which as currently written does not include removals from existing purchasers, does include limits on what can be purchased in the future upon passage and what can be transferred, limits on that, etc., grandfathering. It's very similar to, I think I got my date right, the 1994 assault weapons ban, very much styled in the same vein, though with updated lists of specific firearms being banned here, but more specifically, does not include, again, a confiscation or anything like that here. So the way he was talking about it there, very much opposed to the ability for it to exist, talking about the laws. A finer point I'd make here is saying that it was within the law for him to buy it and then take it, then use it. That's where the law, of course, murdering people is already illegal, is a finer point to be made here. And a lot of comments and conversation about it here. Eric von Holstein-Rathel saying that Robert has been run out of a few Texas towns already, and he showed how little he knows about guns. I'm not saying that I fully agreed with the statement here, but I would say that audibly laughing at that point. If I was in presence there, I may not have had the, well, I hope I would have the presence of mind to maybe not have the exact same immediate reaction. Like, sure, I'll talk about it later, but I mean, it just made for a very interesting pop point. So I'm sure this will continue coming up as an issue there. But at least one other thing with the immigration, as RJ was mentioning there, action-packed car chases coming up. Run Coyote Run tonight at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Honestly, getting a little bit too close for comfort for that, literally and figuratively in this case, in that, well, again, according to our news partners over there at KFOX 14, migrants inside of an SUV were injured after the SUV crashed into a restaurant in West El Paso Wednesday morning. And come to my surprise, because coming in here a little bit earlier this afternoon, didn't notice anything about that, but definitely recognized the restaurant, Como's Italian, which ever so slightly happens to be right across the street from our station here. So as much as these kind of incidents seem to have been coming, at least locally, more often lately, even if, well, in reference to Uvalde, there has definitely been some indication of there being issues in that community with the ditches that have been happening of people driving, ditching cars and scattering. That has come up as part of what is being discussed with the Uvalde investigation, that was one of the reasons some of the security notification systems specifically were not as effective as they maybe should have been, because people tended to ignore them because those incidents had happened, at least number comes to mind, was in the order of magnitude of 40s here. So the fact that it happened, something similar-ish, and At least one taken to the hospital, I understand, and the driver, the SUV, is facing human smuggling charges. And this happened about 8 a.m. here today. And the driver did flee on foot, but was captured. And 5 migrants were taken to the hospital to get treatment for the injuries. So that going on and that happening, certainly a level of concern here. But a whole lot more commentary coming out about all these situations here. But we're already due for that first break of the hour here right now. Again, a whole lot we'll be getting into for our local area and the situations we are facing here after this break, including getting into our interview segment for today, talking with UTEP professor Tom Fullerton about some of the recent indicators, what they mean and what they could bear out to be for the short-term economic future for our area. So coming out of this break, focus on that and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Comments going in over on the social media. We'll keep getting to those, of course, and calls a little bit later in the hour as we usually do. In any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at the 54 Patriot. Expect heavy congestion and delays right now on ramp F off the 54 exit. Heavy congestion there and a backup to Trowbridge. Gateway north of McCombs, an injury accident. El Paso fires on the scene of a crash Global Reach south of Liberty Expressway at George Perry Boulevard. And a crash North Loop Drive eastbound at Yarborough. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop Blindster today and save big. Blindster.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. That's your regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the leading cancer killer, but can be prevented with regular screenings starting at age 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, beat the largest timeshare company in federal court and has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-738-9900. That's 800-738-9900.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on our various social media sites, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk are the major ways you can find us. People chiming in over there, including Ida Beza Gardner, John Hurts, Flaco Jimenez, Eric Von Holstein-Rathlow, RJ, Dottie Butler Torres. A lot of comments coming in there. Dropping those likes and reacts we also do appreciate. we do have Ida Beza Gardner, Ed Clore, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes talking about a lot of things affecting us here, or we'll be voting on anyway, kind of better way to put it for today, here in the Borderland. But of course, those economic situations, what we are looking at with the potentials, the movement, the business cycles, and of course, that persistent question about recession. Again, according to some of the indicators, nationally, there may be one, but always trying to drill down into what the local situation is ever so slightly important to us here on this program. So to delve even further into that, we are joined here in studio right now by Tom Fullerton, UTEP professor of economics, and of course with and author of the Borderplex Business Barometer and the Border Region Modeling Project. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Andrew, glad to be back in the friendly confines of the iHeartRadio studios on North Mesa.
Very happy to have you here, because talking about some of these things can get a bit apocryphal, hard to understand, hard to digest. So breaking it down in better and more useful ways. The way particularly, I mean, this Borderplex Business Barometer, again, a subset of the work that you do with the Border Region Modeling Project, because that the big one there is a kind of an overarching multi-year and often looking on a year-over-year comparison basis. But this one kind of a snapshot of where we are and where we are going, kind of in the immediate sense, can be, I mean, they're both useful tools in their own right for people interested in figuring out how they can make personal decisions. But again, some of those persistent questions that have been going on, I mean, ever since really the pandemic, and even at different points during the pandemic, and the response that has come from that about recession, economic downturns, unemployment, how people can expect their own basic lives to go, all very central and important questions. And so you all try to delve into that as much as possible, data supported wise, right?
That's correct. And best of all, let's see, the Borderplex Business Barometer can be downloaded for free from the UTEP library.
Absolutely. And again, it's accessible there. I mean, I get y'all's email updates because I've signed up here, but otherwise people can absolutely find it here, including at scholarworks.utep.edu, or just search up Border Region Modeling Project or Borderplex Business Barometer. See if we can post up a link here so people can see it for themselves here. So again, the one that you have now come out right as of a little bit earlier this month, about doing my math right, 7 days ago, about a week ago, was the most recent edition, the one analyzing, because of course you got to wait till the month's over, analyzing, the previous month's July and where things stand from there. So in general, when we're talking about this, again, it's been a part of a number of your recent ones of that, of the, again, Borderplex Business Barometer, of the question of recession, even some of your start of year ones and kind of overarching publications focused on that question, what the potentials are, and, as much as we're looking at data, forecasting is also involved in it. There's been some call that you've been saying that there's a potential for recession or recessionary activity, trends towards it, and towards the later part of this year. So as we are now approaching some of the later parts of this year, at the very least, when we're talking about the numbers that came out of July, where does that question of, the way you put it in the most recent publication, just pretty standardly, is a recession imminent? How do you go about answering that question? And is there an answer to that question as of right now?
Right now, there's not an answer to that question. Let's see, at the national level, GDP did decline for 2 consecutive quarters. That satisfies, a conventional wisdom definition of what a recession is, but it wasn't accompanied by a 0.5 point increase in unemployment. And historically, that's been the most reliable indicator of a recession.
Okay.
During the April through June period, the business cycle index of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas for El Paso, was moving sideways. And that was an indicator that, the red lights are flashing. Is it going to decline? Now in July. And in fact, it moved up. And also the unemployment rate here has been consistently lower than it was 12 months ago. So the risk is that interest rates keep going up. And
right.
That's because the Fed is responding to inflation. They don't want to let the genie completely out of the bottle, because for those of you who remember what happened in the 1970s, they tried to accommodate inflation, and that was disastrous. Now they're not going to try to accommodate it. They're trying to head it off at the pass. And so the question is, well, at the pass of the North, what's going to happen? Are we going to fall into recession? And right now, our model simulations indicate that there is a risk of pretty serious risk of falling into a recession, but it has not materialized yet.
And again, some of the questions coming up here that seriously, we're talking about some of the local indicators, because we've talked about some of the mixed factors here on this program already. Yes, we are looking at those inflation numbers and it being a problem. And again, meeting that definition nationally, but exactly locally, El Paso has never been totally in lockstep with some of the national trends and in just about any category you look at, whether it comes to housing, whether it comes to business cycles, et cetera, given how we are on the side of it here. So people, of course, welcome to disagree with that. But the idea of there being differences here locally, particularly when it comes to the unemployment, I think that's one of the more interesting aspects to look at it here, because unemployment, I mean, we had, of course, some staggering changes and differences, and even business cycle indexes is the way you all measure them, take serious downturns in the height of the pandemic and the lockdowns, restrictions, etc., that came with it here. And again, household economic stress also seeing some serious issues with it. But the unemployment rate has still been under, of course, what rates we saw are in 2020, and were more or less at and had reached some of the similar points to what they had been in just before some of those serious issues coming out of it came up to right before the lockdowns in 2020. We were not quite at those same low levels. We've seen maybe a slight upturn by the numbers that you all look at, but it's been, again, pretty low, and again, definitely under what we saw during almost any point during, again, except for the early parts of 2020 and even 2021 then.
Oh, the unemployment rate is very low in El Paso. And let's see, a lot of businesses will tell you that in spite of the official number, it may be at an all-time low in effective terms. If you just go around El Paso, go to any type of office building, any type of shopping center, any type of restaurant, and you're likely to see a help wanted sign front and center. So labor recruitment is really intense right now. The wage rates are going up, not only nationally, but here locally as well. And so we've got what some people would refer to as a red hot labor market. And that's why a lot of economists are saying, no way is there a recession.
Yeah, and again, the debate on that and terminology have been significant nationally, but then locally, if you were to define what we'd be looking at, some of those factors, I mean, local GDP growth can be a little bit harder necessarily to totally measure than it is nationally, of course, here. But when we're looking at to answer that question about will we see a recession or recessionary activity here locally, what are some of the factors that you're looking more specifically at? What would be the indicators that you'd be pointing to if that were to be the case?
Well, the business cycle index is a very good barometer to look at. The household economic stress index, also a good thing to take into account. And right now, let's see, that household economic stress index that UTEP publishes every 4 weeks is at levels that indicate, hey, there is, very little risk in historical terms or comparative terms. See, right now, in other words, households, they may not be in perfect condition, but they are in a strong position for trying to weather any storm. And that's one reason that retail trade has been pretty strong in El Paso, and why retail employment keeps going up, because households have got the resources, they are spending them. They've been repositioning those expenditures to a large extent in response to inflation. But if we're going into a recession, El Paso here locally is in pretty good shape. One of the things you talked about is, let's see, in terms of industrial real estate demand, it's at, very high levels. And in fact, we've got a situation where, let's see, rents, industrial real estate rents per square foot are at, or let's see, near historically high levels. So let's see, there's a lot of different, components here. Most of the components still point to what? Let's see, better economic performance, non-recessionary economic performance. But anytime energy prices get very high, even though they have subsided over the last 4 weeks or last 8 weeks, excuse me, anytime energy prices are high and anytime interest rates are going up, that always, causes economic activity to at least subside. And the Fed's doing a balancing act now. They want economic activity to subside and untangle some of the supply chain knots that have been persistent since 2020. But they want to do it without falling into a recession, and that's a tricky trapeze act to pull off.
Yeah, I want to say it's been the figure that lives in my head anyway on that point, that about 7 out of the last 10 times that there have been these interest rate hike cycles, like we're going to in a pretty extreme one we're looking at right now, but that the way that it's moving that way, 7 out of 10 times in this kind of, again, procession, it has ended in a recession. Now, whether that's the total cause of the recession or rather they were trying to stave it off and it didn't work, that's debatable as well. But I mean, just again, locally here with those interest rates going up and with the amount of, again, we were mentioning some of those industrial activity like CBRE showing that there was about 6 million square feet of like industrial warehouse or, industrial activity space under construction here. It kind of sounds like there are, at least in the way I think about it, a lot of, bad indicators, a lot of things that are, troubling. Again, interest rates, prices, the consumer price index and inflation being seriously concerning, but some, I guess the way I think about it is buoying factors, things that might keep us, maybe not, sitting very much above the waterline, but at least maybe not totally underwater.
That's correct.
Okay. Again, joining us right now here in the studio is Professor Tom Fullerton, UTEP professor of economics and author of the Borderplex Business Barometer and the Border Read and Modeling Project. We're going to talk more about that and what it means, some of the indicators and some of the forecast things about particularly later this year, what the local conditions might be. So stay tuned for more on that here on the El Paso History, on the El Paso Talk El Paso. Back on this after this break. Again, comments coming in, maybe delve into some of those questions that have coming up here, but then also more talk about, again, what those conditions might be. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. El Paso Border Patrol has confirmed with us that they uncovered 2 migrant stash houses. The first one on Monday near North Loop in Carolina in the Lower Valley. They say 11 migrants were rescued from that house. Then, using information from that bust, Border Patrol agents say they found another stash house in Northeast El Paso Tuesday with 27 migrants, including 2 children inside. And a man in El Paso is accused of pointing a gun at a woman and threatening to show her parents what a real active shooter is. Investigators say last week 40-year-old Joshua Treviso got into an argument with a woman over their dog, and she told police he pointed a shotgun at her and threatened to harm her parents at their home. Responding officers then saw Treviso driving near the woman's parents' home in Northeast El Paso and arrested him. Police say they found a firearm and an armored vest and a machete in the car that he was driving. I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound at the 54 Patriot. Expect heavy congestion and delays right now on ramp F off the 54 exit. Heavy congestion there and a backup to Trowbridge. Gateway north of McCombs, an injury accident. El Paso fires on the scene of a crash Global Reach south of Liberty Expressway at George Perry Boulevard. And a crash North Loop Drive eastbound at Yarborough. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. Throughout the day, the clouds filled in, and some of them were dark-looking clouds. And yes, we've got about a 50% chance for some showers and storms. With slow-moving storms tonight, we will look for possible isolated areas of flooding with some of these thunderstorms. Our chance for more scattered thunderstorms remains Friday before we see a slight decrease in our rain chances, but an increase in temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your very latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Shop the new appliance truckload event at Lowe's going on now. They have a large selection of refrigerators, ranges, and more from the brands you trust. Plus, get store-wide savings on other in-stock categories. Shop the event online or in-store now while supplies last. Valid through 8/17.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop Blindster today and save big. Blindster.com. This report is sponsored by Blindster.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to chime in on the show, as we got a lot of comments coming in over on the social media right now, and we open up those phone lines here a little bit later. But a lot of other situations we're discussing here, including, of course, those prices. We've got our price watchdogs, Kathy Kodry and RJ over on the YouTube primarily, talking about, I think, bringing up jam and jellies today. Yeah. Got some strawberry cherry jam, ended up spending $57 for 24 half pints, and unhappy about that here. And RJ saying, I remember grandma's preserves really need to learn canning and start growing food in the garden. It's a plan I have, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Not going to be able to fit everything in there. I don't exactly live on a few acres or anything like that, even though that might be a goal in the long run, but also some conversation about the stats and figures we're looking at and some disagreement therein. Of course, entitled to your opinion, but there are factors that we look at and try to gauge here, and very importantly, there's a very similar factors that others making decisions in the region, whether it be other elected officials or even other companies. These are some of the kind of things that they look at here. So again, entitled to an opinion about it, but again, talking about some of these figures here and the factors and how they measure it here. Of course, joined here still in studio by Tom Fullerton, UT Professor of Economics. Thanks for sticking around with us here.
Glad to do it here as we broadcast and live stream.
Absolutely, out in the very many ways that we are here. So we were talking a little bit before about some of the base level analysis and concerns that come with, again, the Border Region Modeling Project and, of course, the Borderplex Business Barometer, them being the yearly and monthly publications, respectively, here that you all put out. As you look at them here, again, the local recession question, certainly a part of it here. I know there are some definitional debates going on nationally, but when it comes to locally, we're talking about some of the factors you all are looking at or are concerned with. But if we were to be in the serious recession territory here, what would be the expectations of what that would look like locally?
Well, I think what would happen is we would observe something similar to what occurred in 1990, 1991. August 1990, when Iraq invaded Kuwait, gasoline prices skyrocketed as well as diesel prices. And let's see, immediately it started affecting profitability margins here in El Paso because of our fractured urban geography.
No, sure.
And let's see, the national economy fell into a recession. And so we ended up with some interesting results. Some of the highlights from back in that period was, manufacturing employment across the river in Ciudad Juarez. It fell substantially, 2.7% during that recession. Over here on the north side of the river, business bankruptcies increased in El Paso, and then they really increased in Las Cruces. But simultaneously, business bankruptcies, and I said business bankruptcy, I meant personal bankruptcies.
Personal, okay.
Personal bankruptcies in El Paso rose substantially, and then they rose by an even larger amount and larger percentage change in Las Cruces. But they were not accompanied by increases in business bankruptcies in either of these cities. Very odd. And in fact, employment grew in both El Paso and Las Cruces during that period, even though it was declining nationally. We may be on the verge of observing something here. In other words, we fall into a recession, but it's not a crisis by any stretch of the imagination, even though it does inflict economic hardship on certain segments.
Of course, being part of the name here, the Borderplex Business Barometer, you're looking at the entire, again, business network of the region here, essentially. So not just the U.S. side of things, but also increasing those, Mexico side of them. And one of the interesting factors you're looking at there is the total trade through the El Paso Customs District, where it has been total trade in millions, about most recently measured about $11.5 billion, essentially here. And that is above any level that it has been even in early 2020 or even in the somewhat regrowth. We saw that in 2021, has dipped down more recently, but there are some seasonal adjustments that can be done with that. So the point is that a lot of indicators point towards increasing demand and increasing growth. But again, some of those factors that may drag it down, either considering it as buoying with the positive ones or anchors with the rest of them. The concern there would be, again, the impact locally, because trade being so critical here, we were really feeling those energy prices as they were higher, and some of them that are still elevated above previous levels anyway, even if they have been coming down. Particularly diesel does have a lot of impact on our region.
Oh, it does. And it reduces operating margins at businesses, makes it difficult for them to increase their staffs and invest in things. However, the fact that they've got so many orders coming in, it's in some ways a good problem to deal with, but we're not exactly in the sweet spot by any stretch of the imagination. In terms of, that $11 billion in merchandise trade coming through the El Paso Customs District, that's one reason why there is so much investment in warehouse space here in El Paso and in factory space on the south side of the Borderplex in Juarez.
It's been estimated, and it varies slightly, but roughly between a quarter and a third of pretty much all employment and jobs in El Paso are more or less directly related or directly impacted by the trade levels. Whenever you're talking about, the businesses that are either receiving the goods and services, or the ones that are then providing the services to those businesses, the vehicle maintenance or the transportation services. It's significant impact on this region, and it may not be one single employer. The single largest employer is probably still a government employee based, let's just call it Fort Bliss in general, most likely. But seriously, these factors are some of the ones that, again, why there might be reason for, I hesitate to say optimism, but to watch this very closely to see if we're going to see those downturns, because, again, the trade is the kind of the one that I keep the most laser focus on, because, sure, there are other factors here, including the inflation going up, the median house price continuing to rise, even as of recently here, reaching well above the $200,000 levels here in El Paso. So, there's a lot of stress here. So particularly then in that household economic stress index you got there with those levels and, the inflation, the costs that have come with that, how does that play into how you're measuring that level?
Well, in terms of household economic stress, we take into account three components: unemployment, inflation, and housing prices. And some people say, well, isn't that excluding, a large segment of the population? But the fact is that in El Paso, we have one of the highest home ownership rates in the entire United States. And so when housing prices go up, it definitely tends to cause economic activity to accelerate because of those wealth effects. But even after taking into account the housing price increases, of course, inflation is hurting things, and unemployment, it's been a positive. But if we do tip into a recession, that could change pretty quickly. A lot of places in the United States are already observing declines in the amount of job advertising and in the number. They're seeing increases in the number of people filing for unemployment. That hadn't arrived here yet. The Borderplex business cycle marches to the beat of a different drummer. But things are, nobody is claiming that we're in the Goldilocks zone. Put it that way. I got an interesting anecdotal observation to throw out there to your listeners, and that is, you mentioned that merchandise trade surpassed $11 billion here recently, and generally it's down historically. A good month is $9 billion, so we're way past that.
Right.
At least we were, temporarily. On Tuesday, I went across the bridge for some meetings in Juarez. I came back in the middle of the day across the Isleta Zaragoza Bridge, and the line was about 7 minutes long. When is the last time in the middle of the day you saw a 7-minute line at the Isleta Zaragoza port of entry? I can't remember that ever happening during a weekday. So, I mean, you're talking about a mixed package in terms of what all the signals are pointing to. That one's anecdotal. Some people say, well, the plural of anecdote is data. I wouldn't say that, but some of the
Yeah.
comments you get every day during this show. Let's see, but it is, very surprising in terms of that. I guess for once, my timing was right on the international bridges.
And you do also, as a part of your report here, mention that worth mentioning. You look at some of the average wait times here. So it's some of the factors you look at baked in. But I guess one of the more overarching concerns I've also had is, as much as we talk about unemployment and it being low in some places and generally nationally, which is why some of these factors are complicated to analyze, but that the concern about even just the absolute size of the labor force as it is. I mean, there's all these anecdotal terms out there, and nobody wants to work anymore, or the people retiring, the great resignation, all these kind of pithy phrases that get thrown around here. But one of the ones I've been more concerned about is essentially the absolute contraction of the labor force, because of course, unemployment, the unemployed, some of these numbers are predicated not on say an absolute size of the population, but what part of the population falls into that category. Because if someone has said essentially, well, I have retired, or I have decided I am no longer even seeking employment, they have technically fallen out of that category. So when you're looking at that, I know that it was just in one microcosm example has been with teachers, with the education workforce, essentially with the number of teachers saying essentially, thanks, but no thanks, I'm gone, and either taking the retirement or leaving that industry. That has been an issue there, and the labor force there has declined. But when you're looking at it, at the very least with the aggregate local numbers are you seeing any of those concerns or indicators or things like that about even just, again, the size of the labor force and then how that then interacts with, of course, the unemployment numbers we're talking about?
The labor force here has leveled off, and it is down a little bit, especially on a per capita basis. In other words, labor force participation has declined in El Paso. But let's see, to the extent that all of the financial assets that were accumulated during the PPP program and the other sort of social safety net programs that were enacted during the pandemic, as those resources run out, more and more people are starting to participate in the labor force again. I think it's being held up in large part because, let's see, you mentioned the educational sector, the childcare sector hasn't come back. And so let's see, El Paso is a little bit younger than the national, age profile is, and more of our households have children. And until childcare facilities fully restaff and fully reopen, a lot of parents are constrained from entering back into the labor market.
I mean, the way these are interconnected are obvious in a lot of ways here. But again, joining us right now has been Tom Fullerton, UTEP professor of economics. Again, the report we're talking about here, their Borderplex Business Barometer, you can find, of course, over on utep.edu, or just search up Borderplex Business Barometer, as well as the overarching border region modeling project that this falls under, available there as well. So if you want to see the numbers and decide for yourself what you think the next things coming here will be. Final question for you then. Again, that question about local recession. Anyway, what that might mean, what that might look like. There's been some of the reports we've been putting out recently and over the course of this year have been more focused on the idea of the last 2 quarters of this year being maybe a locus for that, a very stronger potential. Based on these recent numbers, what are your expectations for the 3rd and 4th quarter of this year, potentially getting into that local recession territory?
Housing prices have probably peaked, and they should start to go down a little bit, especially to the extent that long-term mortgage rates, 15-year and 30-year conventional mortgage rates, if those keep rising, then housing prices should subside. Believe it or not, even though we've got a smaller level of residential construction than we would have had at typical phases of the business cycle in years past, we'll probably see declines in the amount of housing construction as well. Beyond that, let's see, I don't expect the number of jobs to decline very much, if at all, in El Paso or Las Cruces. And in Las Cruces, that's particularly welcome because their unemployment rate was stubbornly high for a multi-year period, much higher than it was here in El Paso. Now it hasn't converged with the El Paso unemployment rate, but it has moved down substantially. The gap has shrunk, noticeably, and it's probably going to remain there, maybe even shrink a little bit more. So the labor market is going to continue to be healthy in both metropolitan economies. But we may see wages level off, or wage increases level off if overall business activity subsides. And you can't rule that risk out as long as interest rates are going up. In my own, survey responses to Bloomberg, I'm on their National Economic Survey panel. I've still got, interest rates going up in September, 50 basis points instead of 75 basis points.
Okay.
And then beyond that, 3 rounds of 25 basis points increases. So we've got at least 1.25% more of interest rate hikes in the future. And that's not just short-term rates, in this brave new world. Quantitative tightening. The Fed is unloading its balance sheets, and that's causing interest rates at the longer end of the interest rate spectrum to also increase. So, it's going to cause profitability margins to remain under pressure for the foreseeable future, even if energy prices keep declining, and gasoline and diesel prices probably are going to decline at least from September through the beginning of December.
All right. Again, UTEP professor Tom Fullerton of economics there, Border Region Modeling Project. You can find that again over at utep.edu or just search up Border Region Modeling Project and their Borderplex Business Barometer. The latest one out, Volume 6, Number 7, covering, July and previous here so far this year. So again, thank you very much for talking with us about what the factors are you're looking at, what some of the indicators you're looking at, and what the potential and movement of them could be here today.
Andrew, always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it here. So we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we're going to get into those calls and comments and, everything that we're going into here. So if you want to get on the line, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heavy congestion continues. The Patriot exit off the I-10 westbound, especially Ramp F. The backup now is to east of Geronimo. Gateway Boulevard north at McCombs. That accident's in the clearing stages. North Loop Drive eastbound at Yarborough, an injury accident. And police are responding to a crash Oregon Street south of Schuster at River Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
If you fail to understand the single concept about money and tech, you're going to miss out on the biggest opportunity. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. So listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello?
Mike, this is Norma Jean at Sergio Lewis Body Shop near the airport. Have you seen Sergio?
I'm expecting him in a few minutes to cut a new commercial.
I'm really worried about him, Mike. He really believes he's a poet. It's gone to his head.
There's plenty of room up there. Anyways, his poetry isn't that bad.
Will you please have him call the shop?
Sure, Norma.
That's Norma Jean, Mike. Gotta go.
Yee, she's feisty. Hey, Sergio, there you are.
Hey, Mike, I have this great new poem. Check this out, man. Sometimes even our darkest moments are enlightening. Hey, what's so funny, man?
Nothing, Sergio, really. By the way, Norma Jean called.
Really? What did she want?
Oh, she was just telling me what a big fan she is of your poetry, Sergio. Sergio Lewis Body Shop at 3800 Admiral near the airport, where it's the customer's choice, not the insurance company's, and there's a lifetime warranty on all collision repair. 593-0191.
Overcoming drug addiction was difficult. But I found the path to recovery that worked for me. The road to recovery is different for everyone. Find the path that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
From rising crime, rising costs, and shortages of essential goods, New Mexico's hard-working families are hurting. Congresswoman Yvette Harrell is working with local leaders and local law enforcement to care for our communities and keep all New Mexico families safe. Last year, Yvette Harrell introduced the POWER Act, legislation designed to increase U.S. fuel production and restore America's energy independence by blocking Biden from banning energy leases on federal lands without congressional approval. Congresswoman Harrell put New Mexico families first by introducing the PAUSE Act, keeping Title 42 in place to protect vulnerable border communities. And with crime on the rise, Harrell gave law enforcement the tools they need to catch dangerous criminals and work to return control to local police departments, not the federal government. For more information on Congresswoman Yvette Harrell's efforts to keep New Mexico families safe and secure, visit harrell.house.gov. Paid for with official funds from the Office of Yvette Harrell.
Need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. And right now, save 45% off any order. Just use code RADIO at checkout. Blindster.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. A lot of commentary coming in there. A lot of agreements, disagreements, and many other points being made. Again, you're entitled to your opinion about the way the economy is going, and we talk about that more than a little bit nationally, but focus here today has been mostly on the local one, and even if you don't think things are going well, a lot of evidence to support that, frankly, but the idea that El Paso doesn't, and the Borderplex region doesn't totally do the exact same things the rest of the economy does, I mean, that's been pretty self-evident, even in my limited time on this earth here. Things happen a little bit differently here, so looking at this absolute factors, one of the questions that came in here, Sean Gardner asking, simple question, is he a believer in Keynesian economics? What Professor Fullerton told me during the break there is that he's very interested in their theories, that one of his thesis advisors is actually, I'm not going to be able to say the name correctly of the gentleman who referred to there, but was one of the modern foundational thinkers of the current study of Keynesian economics. And he says he will test them all. He considers himself a bit more of a pragmatist. What does it actually look like? What are the factors actually point to in our area? And what that might mean for you and me, which I find to be useful to a level here. But let's get tell you what, I think we're going to go a little bit too long there to get to any of those calls right now, but I know we got a few on the line here, and we'll get to more of those here coming out of the break here, but at least one of the more comments here, Joey Carlson, not happy with the interviewer for not mentioning the Great Reset. A little bit, I'm going to say, outside of the purview here, that's almost more of a political goal and political long-term standing thing. So if we start seeing the bug market come up, I'm sure he'll be measuring it here, but this is not exactly a what he thinks should happen versus what is happening here. So again, sorry if you're disagreeing with it, of course, entitled to your opinion here, but how we actually measure things here, and RJ and Kathy Codry putting it here, I think decently well for what a local situation. Kathy Codry saying help wanted signs everywhere, and RJ saying, I know if your 6-year-old can't spell now hiring, you need to get out more. Yeah, that's a pretty decent way to put it here. Anyway, I think we're already due for that next break of the hour here right now. A lot of comments coming in and more calls, and we'll get to more of that as much as we can here after this break. Again, you are tuned into Talk El Paso, airing here live on News Radio 690 KTSM. That number to call if you want to get on the line, full up at the moment, but if you want to squeeze in a little bit later, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On your El Paso freeways, we've got a crash on the Talbot eastbound on-ramp to the I-10. I-10 westbound at Cotton, road debris is blocking the right lane. On the 54 Patriot northbound at Liberty Expressway and the Fred Wilson exit, there is an accident. El Paso Fire's on the scene. And an injury accident, East Glen Drive at northbound George Dieter. You could take Pebble Hills as your alternate. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
There's only one dental office in El Paso where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are very affordable. 1995implants.com. Other places charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please don't ever pay that much for dental implants. Instead, come to 1995implants.com. Our price includes the implant, abutment, and crown, plus a free consultation with the dentist, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing plans to fit your budget. With help from 1995implants.com, you'll no longer have cracked or missing teeth, and you'll finally be able to say goodbye to loose, old, wobbly, worn-out, uncomfortable dentures. If you're ready for a brand new smile that family and friends will rave about, then come to 1995implants.com, conveniently located right here in El Paso. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Attorney General Merrick Garland is addressing the raid on former President Trump's home in Palm Beach, Florida. Today, he said the Department of Justice is moving to make more information public.
The Justice Department has filed a motion in the Southern District of Florida to unseal a search warrant and property receipt relating to a court-approved search.
The Attorney General says he can't provide any further information at this time regarding the basis of the search, but confirmed that he approved the raid. It's been widely reported that FBI agents converged on Mar-a-Lago Monday in a search for classified documents that Trump took with him when he left the White House last year. The market is finishing today's session mixed after the release of another inflation report. The producer price index showed a surprising decline from June when it was expected to show an increase. One expert said investors should still be cautious because the Federal Reserve will most likely keep raising interest rates. The CDC is issuing updated COVID guidelines that put less of an emphasis on tough measures to fight the virus. Lisa Taylor has more.
A CDC official told reporters population immunity due to previous infection and vaccination mean the focus can be put on protecting those who are most vulnerable. Those exposed to COVID but who didn't get infected don't have to quarantine under the new guidelines. The agency is also moving away from social distancing recommendations. Despite all that, those who test positive should be home for at least 5 days. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Mark Cuban is accused of being involved in a crypto Ponzi scheme. A class action lawsuit claims Cuban and Voyager Digital CEO Stephen Ehrlich duped Americans into buying over $5 billion in crypto assets last year. A federal judge in Michigan is declaring a mistrial in a case related to the Flint water crisis. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The Biden administration is reportedly shelving any immediate plans to scrap Trump-era tariffs on Chinese goods. Gabrielle Fahmy says the change comes following House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's controversial visit to Taiwan.
The U.S. wants to avoid doing anything that could be viewed as an escalation, but it also doesn't want to be seen as retreating in the face of China. The Chinese military conducted ballistic missile launches and simulated attacks on Taiwan after Pelosi's visit. The White House says Biden has not made a decision on the issue, and all options remain on the table.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady is temporarily away from the team on personal matters. Head coach Todd Bowles says Brady will be out for at least the next 10 days, meaning he'll miss the first 2 preseason games. Bowles says this is something they planned ahead of training camp, and he's not worried about this impacting Brady's ability to play. Protesters are taking to New York City streets over the future of carriage horses. Natalie Migliori has more.
Advocates are renewing calls to put an end to New York City's age-old tradition after a horse named Ryder collapsed on the west side of Manhattan.
The city council, Speaker Adrienne Adams, the mayor, they're aiding and abetting this egregious animal abuse.
Police doused the horse with water and ice in case of heat exhaustion. But once he arrived back at the stable, a veterinarian diagnosed him with EPM. That's a neurological disease caused by possum droppings. Ryder will undergo a blood test that will confirm the diagnosis, which could force him to retire.
Borat star Maria Bakalova is joining the cast of Jerry Seinfeld's first film, Unfrosted. The Pop-Tart story will tell the story of cereal rivals Kellogg's and Post racing against each other in 1963 to create the perfect breakfast pastry. As well as writing and directing the film, Seinfeld is set to star in the movie. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword LUCKY to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's LUCKY to 200-200.
Keep listening for the next chance to win your way to our iHeartRadio Music Festival, September 23rd and 24th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Tickets are on sale right now. AXS.com.
Stream it free on the CWS
app and CWTV.com.
Brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch to the network with more 5G bars in more places so you can experience your music whether you're streaming from home or from the front row. Plus, customers can get closer to the festival with VIP access, only from the leader in 5G coverage, T-Mobile.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has what you need for school at prices that won't hold you back. Now, Crayola 10-count markers and 12-count colored pencils are just 99 cents each. And Staples one-subject notebooks are just 35 cents each. In-store only. Offer ends 8/27, limit 30. Don't send your kids back to school. Send them forward at Staples.
New on Curiosity Stream.
This bear's walking right at me. We'll see if he wants trouble or not.
Follow filmmaker Casey Anderson as he gets an unprecedented face-to-face look at Alaska's fiercest carnivores on the Tracker's Diary Bears of Katmai. Plus, why is a tiny island in the Pacific one of America's most crucial outposts? Discover the truth behind this mysterious trans-Pacific stopover on Extremities Wake Island. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit CuriosityStream.com.
Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
This is Alec Baldwin. I'd like to invite you to listen to my new limited series podcast about a true American hero who lived to tell the story of his imprisonment by the Japanese during World War II.
I'm kind of proud of the fact that I'm a survivor. I wouldn't want to go back through it, but I wouldn't trade it either. It changed my life completely.
Listen to Ben Steele American on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. But if you're chiming in there, more than welcome to. A lot of comments coming in there. Just I'm asking you to be a little bit clear on the concept here is all I ask here. Generally, first seek to understand, then be understood, meaning that we have guests on here. We want to know what they have to say, and then we can discuss it here. So anyone saying, why am I not railing against someone that I might otherwise disagree with is kind of missing the point there. And why we do things ever so slightly differently here than not as a response or in contravention of anything else that goes on our air, but we want to understand the local situations here. So if you've got actual, issues you want to point to here, as opposed to saying, well, I don't like this guy, therefore he's wrong, I'm just going to say maybe a stronger argument is in need there. Anyway, we do have those phone lines open as well. The number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Full up at the moment, and if anyone had trouble getting on the line there, I think we had a screw loose, wire lost kind of situation, but we should be locked down there now. So again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Dang right you had a problem with that phone system. I called 11 times before I finally got through. But it's persistence. That's what I'm all about, is persistence. But check your phone system. Now, right out of the box, and I know you like local issues, so I'm going to talk about two local issues.
Okay.
Number one, Beto O'Rourke smacked that guy down who laughed at him when he was trying to explain that whole situation, the horror show of Uvalde, and this guy laughed at Beto O'Rourke. I don't care how the circumstances happen, but he shut him down. Now, obviously, the word that he used was probably a little bit over the top, but I think he got his point across. That's number one. Number two, locally, if you want to call it that, Occidental Petroleum, based in Texas, I think somewhere up around Odessa, somewhere around there, is planning to ask for a reduction in property taxes because they want to come up with some kind of a plan to reduce carbon dioxide. Right? Now, I ask all you Texans out there, here's a company that wants to save you Texans from your self-imposed foibles and falsities. Are you going to agree with them, or are you going to just go ahead and just die? That's what I want to know.
I know that there's been some talk, particularly when it comes to energy investment, about there being more, again, property tax subsidies, again, for any company looking to operate or expand its operations footprint-wise here in the state of Texas. Property taxes, as we have discussed, are one of the major impediments, but also kind of centralizes the benefits or dividends or, well, benefits or tax breaks, rather, that could be given to them here. So it makes a little bit of sense. I know also there's been some Warren Buffett focused on that as well and some purchases there. So if there's more activity happening there, I wouldn't be too surprised here. But to the initial point, yes, we did play that clip from O'Rourke, blanking out the, of course, most objectionable language there, but playing the situation there and the laugh that happened with it. Yeah, I'm not sure I would have done the same thing in that same situation had I found myself in it. But, I mean, I'm sure this will be even a further part of the debates going on here. We'll be curious to know if that one, particularly that issue, since the Abbott campaign was pretty quick to say, even though that the gentleman was reportedly the laugher, the heckler, as it's sometimes being called, was holding an Abbott campaign sign claiming that there was no involvement of that person to the actual campaign itself.
Well, I'm just saying, that's just disgustingly sick. I mean, those poor kids and this nut job gets out there and laughs. I don't care how it went up. From what I understand, Beto got down on his knees and kind of pretended like he was shooting a rifle or something. Okay, maybe that was a little bit funny. But in the larger sense, Beto was trying to impart against two of those people there in the audience about the horrors of this whole situation. I just think it's disgusting. And again, like I said, what are you Texans going to do? Here's Occidental Petroleum. They want a discount on their property tax, which means you're going to pay more, because if they get a discount, you're going to pay more. But largely, I think they're on the right track. What do you think of that?
I mean, okay, yeah, if we're just and only to bring businesses any particular place, I know it's been a conversation here in El Paso, among other things, but I think the idea would be, or at least the way it should be applied in my mind, would be to offer property tax incentives, maybe not total removals, but bring it down to, if they're asking for competitive levels, bringing it to that. The idea would then be by the business activity they're putting in, because sure, property taxes might be the one that affects mostly you and me and, business infrastructure, sales tax and other excise taxes. So not placed just by rote on a piece of property, but because of the activity, such as the sales going on with the property. That would be, well, ideally how it would be made up coming from that, or the further generated economic activity basically filling in the gap, if not surpassing it. So if that truly the calculations come out that way, would find myself more in favor of it. Otherwise, I guess just given the standpoint and the policies that have come out of the state legislature, the governor's office currently as it is, wouldn't be surprised if this would be maybe the start of a wave of such things in order to, I guess, put the money where the mouth is, so to speak, when it comes to if they've truly been calling for more energy production to make it more feasible within the state.
Okay. I love your comments every day. I love what you say. Not only that, but you got the greatest radio program I've ever heard in my entire life. I love what you do. Just keep doing it. I just have so much fun calling your radio program. I got to tell you that.
All right, well, appreciate the point in the call there. You have a good one.
All right.
I think we have time for at least one more call here. Again, the number on the line is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. If you want to call into the show, have another caller on the line here right now. Like Ted Kors is kind of standpoint I have. I mean, sure, I do a lot of talking on this program. That's no secret. But when it comes to guests and such, listening more and talking less is a pretty good standpoint. Anyway, a lot more comments coming in there as well. But we got Andrew on the west side on the line with us here right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much, Andrew. Well, Beto, I have two questions for you. Con esa boca comes. And do you talk like that in front of your wife or your mom? You really need to grow up.
Okay, I'm not going to claim to answer on behalf of any political candidate. That just gets fraught. But honestly, given the propensity, I'm going to say my expectation would be that it might be a household word. I'm just going to say it that way.
Well, I believe the guy was, and this is what I saw in the video. Okay, he was laughing at Beto's misinformation. Okay, the AR-15. I'll be nice. Let me go back. It was a lie. What Beto was saying. The AR-15 was not intended as a battlefield weapon to penetrate helmets at 500 feet. Believe me, the helmets of that day, and PIS helmets, and even the M1 helmet used by the United States Army and other forces are not bulletproof. They are not bulletproof.
Oh yeah, I mean you want to go back to Full Metal Jacket days. The flak jackets they were wearing, they weren't called bulletproof for a reason. It was meant for shrapnel because things would zip more or less straight through that, particularly at the velocities we're talking about. One of the better ways, and this is why I'm saying I have by no means agreed with the statements that were being made there, though I'm not quite sure I would have laughed at that exact moment in time here. Again, wasn't in that situation, so it's a little bit of armchair quarterbacking, but some of the finer points are that yes, the AR-15, when given sufficient barrel length and powder charges, can be a very high velocity round and can penetrate things, but it comes back a little bit further than that, actually. I'm going to link it more towards the conversations that have gone on to the conversations about the lethality and damage and devastation that have been mentioned as being wrought by this platform here. The AR-15 was done, and not in a battle rifle style, which tends to be more in the 30 caliber, 308, 30-06 kind of range here, but much more intended to be an implement of battle, sure, but the way in order to do it, the round designed to take someone out of the fight, because one of the core concepts, the way it was described to me by someone prior service and who was a drill instructor and a range instructor on their own, is the idea is, sure, you can take one person out of the battle by putting them out, but you can also then take 3 people out of the battle if you simply wound them, and then someone has to carry the stretcher there. So that's one of the reasons that you look at, say, the difference between, the Soviet and the U.S. Battle implements of those eras here. So to call it one exactly thing doesn't quite bear out the way it was being described. I will fully agree.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you're right. The M16 was designed to be a battle rifle, and that technique of taking 2 or 3 people out by wounding them, and you have to have 2 people to get each person out. Those were tactics designed by the Imperial Japanese Marines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyhow, like I was saying, I do not know who is giving Beto this information, but if you take your standard 308 or 30-06 rounds, it's going to penetrate any part of the body, whether you have a helmet or not, at 3 times that distance.
Yeah, that's why the better way to describe these implements, the wearables we're talking about here, helmets, vests, whatever, is bullet resistant, because unless you start talking about feet of material, something is probably, even from a man-portable size, going to be able to penetrate it.
Well, the M1 helmet that was never designed to be bullet resistance or bulletproof. It was designed to deflect shrapnel. And that stuff was made by Kaiser Steel and various other contractors. By the way, remember Murphy's Law of Combat, okay? Mm-hmm. The equipment that you have on you was procured by from the lowest bidder.
Absolutely, and also have to be 10% smarter than the equipment itself.
Right. Anyway, I digress. Have a good afternoon.
You too as well. Appreciate the point in the call. Have a good one out there as well. All right, we're going to go out to take that next break right now. We do have comments and a lot of calls on the line here. If you want to squeeze on that line, that number available, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. The number one more time, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at Trans Mountain, some good news. A couple of lanes open. The right lane, though, is still blocked from an earlier crash, and that means a big backup. Stop traffic with 20-minute delays. I-10 eastbound Vinton all the way to Trans Mountain. I-10 westbound at Patriot, heavy congestion. Expect delays on ramp F. 54 Patriot northbound at Liberty Expressway. Injury accident clearing stages. And red at Thorn, an accident reported. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Dog days of summer got your business needing help? Check out Indeed, an all-in-one hiring solution that makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer: regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse full of interior and exterior doors, granite and quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and flooring and tile to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from free kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
This radio commercial was made to convince you to stop speeding. We can't use siren sound effects on the radio, so we'll use other equally jarring sound effects to get your attention, like telling you that whether you drive a little over the speed limit or a lot, you can crash just the same. You could hurt yourself or worse, others.
I'm at the scene of the collision.
And the damage you cause will be beyond repair. See, we didn't have to use crash or siren sounds after all. Speeding catches up with you. Brought to you by NHTSA.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. I've been made aware that we are having some, not issues with getting calls in the air. I don't think there were any issues with that previous couple of callers there, but the answering system might be a little persnickety at the moment. So if you're calling in, just be patient on the line here. Might have to pop you up without talking with you first here, but that phone line is open and available, and obviously we're taking calls on air. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Ted Kors clarifying from earlier that the listening more and talking less was meant for Frankie, but I still take it to heart in its own way. This is the majority of my talking for the day. Let's just put it that way, what we do here. Some more comments on people here. RJ saying, my dad's old helmet from Vietnam would give you a concussion from a BB round. Let's be real. The actual technical term for that would be back face deformation. And why, as much as the many very different things that I'm looking up and searching on any day, I sometimes get ads for these $100 helmets off of, they don't claim to be from Wish, but they might as well be from Wish.com, and just how absolutely non-life trustworthy are they. Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to take a soda can, much less any full-throated round here, but I mean, there are a lot of factors in this here. Again, I'm not sure I would have laughed in that instance, but I definitely would have talked about it on this show. Let's put it that way, and why we have the availability that we do. So again, if you want to get on the line, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Ted Kors asking a little bit more reasonably, I guess a real question, better way to put it here, would be what law on the books already would have prevented the act some of the points being made. That was, I guess, one of the reasons we played the full clip from O'Rourke and what his statements were, and the swearing incident that we did bleep out. Don't want anyone come at me on that. About that point was that, yes, there were laws in the books that wouldn't have prevented it, but I think he was winding into that that the law allowed him to go in there and shoot these people. The law does not allow you to shoot anyone. Let's just make that perfectly clear. Murder is definitely illegal, regardless of the implement being used here. But anyway, some of the finer points being made there. Again, if you want to comment over on the social media, more than welcome to. RJ, Ted Gores, Kathy Codry, Louis Pinato, Jesse Garza. Who else? I'm going to miss someone here. And Robbie Flores, and a lot more. And a lot of yelling at me and yelling at guests and other things. But if you want to, you're more than welcome to. John Hurwitz, Eric Von Holstein, Rathlow, Dottie Butler, Torres a little bit earlier, and dropping those likes and reactions. We do appreciate Calvin Williams, Matt Olson, Ida Beza Gardner, Ed Clore, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. Let's go ahead and get back to those phone lines here right now. Again, that number to do so, the picking up might be a little bit dicey at the moment, but we'll definitely get you on the line. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeastern line with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, great guest. I read some of the asinine comments some of your listeners posted. Clearly anti-intellectuals who think that their uneducated opinions are as reliable as that of a PhD. It's so Trumpy. Yesterday, while being deposed by prosecutors from the Attorney General's office of New York over fraud for supplying misleading financial statements to banks, insurers, and taxing districts, the hypocrite who said that only the mob and the guilty take the fifth, Trump took the fifth over 420 times. Every other question over 4 hours of questioning. What is he hiding? You know? And today, an armed Trump-tard who was at Trump's 1-6 protester was shot to death after trying to breach an FBI office in Ohio. You know, Trump incites violence. He got 23 people killed in El Paso using his racist, xenophobic rhetoric. And earlier today, the Attorney General of the United States announced that the Department of Justice would be releasing the documents utilized in securing the failed former president's raid of his Mar-a-Lago complex. Now, T-Rump could have publicized those documents already, but he chose not to. And he has until 3 p.m. tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time, to try to prevent their release. I bet he tries to prevent their release. You know, it's not looking good for the clown, you know. And now to Andrew, that red-baiting retired government worker. You know, I'm much more of a capitalist than he will ever have been as a financial service entrepreneur whose taxes paid for his salary and his benefits. He worked for the socialist component of the economy. And to Barbara, who doesn't care about Trump's personal life, you know, I remember before Trump, I remember Republicans used to say that character counted, that morality mattered, that they were values voters. But she doesn't care that the kids of the United States and the world can Google Donald Trump and hear him bragging about serially sexually assaulting women. And then later on claiming he was going to sue them, and he never did. So that's the kind of character Barbara's all right with. You know, it just really shows how many cult members Trump has.
As much as I'm not surprised about your standpoint on, again, the former president here, let's just say whenever it comes to, there are plenty of things with every president we've had that I found myself significantly disagreeing with about. You go through a laundry list of those if you want to at some point here, but to a finer point, the idea of character counting, sure, the underlying character of someone doing it, but if they still don't have good ideas from when they're getting put into office, I'm finding myself not wanting to vote for them either. The requirements for someone that I'd want to get a beer with versus I want to have an elected office are ever so slightly and importantly different, because what they actually want to do with that office, again, a very significant point that needs to be focused on there. And to the point about what's going on with pleading the fifth here, again, it's interesting they're using the phrase hypocrisy there as much as we're talking about this being a guaranteed right and others that are using here. So sure, I don't really get the idea of criticizing someone for using a right that you may find yourself wanting or needing to end up using at any point in your life here. And I feel that applies in this situation as well. As much as you may be feeling some schadenfreude over his previous statement versus his use of it, I find no particular issue with it because, very crucially, as we have discussed here, the use of the Fifth Amendment does not come with any implication of guilt rather that you are declining not to, well, contradict yourself and therefore perjure yourself at its most basic level. So no, I don't have any issue with it, and I do hope that there will be full investigations coming out of it. And again, it has been pretty much a hallmark of the Trump administration to have him avoid depositions and such because, let's be honest, the former president tended to go off script quite a lot here, and waxing philosophical may be a good thing for when it comes to rallies, rallying up a crowd, those kind of things. Actually making it so that, in a court of law, it works out, doesn't quite exactly work that way here. So I appreciate the point in the call, even if I find myself disagreeing with it more than usual anyway here. And as much as I appreciate the local conversation, let's make sure we try to keep it on the new things and not just simply repeating the issues that we had from literally yesterday here. So moving on there, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll take more calls on the line again. We are able to get people on the line here, so if you want to dial in, I know we had some issues with our call-in system a little bit earlier, but we are able to take those calls and obviously get them on air cleanly enough, even if one of our phones here seems to be messing up a bit. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. El Paso Water says a main break caused a sinkhole that swallowed a car whole, nearly claiming the life of the driver inside. Shortly before noon yesterday, workers managed to pull the car out of this 15-foot deep sinkhole. The utility says a 70-year-old water pipe broke and crews have begun work to replace it. El Paso Water hopes to install the new pipe, fill this hole, and repave the road by Saturday. The woman who was pulled out of the car just before it was engulfed by the sinkhole suffered only minor injuries. CBS 4 did speak with her daughter, and she said her 72-year-old mother still seems to be in shock about what happened to her, but is otherwise doing fine. Of course, always remember, you can stay up to date with what's happening in our area by signing up for our CBS 4 newsletter. It's easy and it's free, and we'll send it straight on over to your inbox. Just head to cbs4local.com/sign-up to get started.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound at Trans Mountain, some good news. A couple of lanes open. The right lane, though, is still blocked from an earlier crash, and that means a big backup. Stop traffic with 20-minute delays. I-10 eastbound Vinton all the way to Trans Mountain. I-10 westbound at Patriot, heavy congestion. Expect delays on ramp F. 54 Patriot northbound at Liberty Expressway. Injury accident clearing stages, and red at Thorn, an accident reported. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. Throughout the day, the clouds filled in, and some of them were dark-looking clouds. And yes, we've got about a 50% chance for some showers and storms. With slow-moving storms tonight, we will look for possible isolated areas of flooding with some of these thunderstorms. Our chance for more scattered thunderstorms remains Friday before we see a slight decrease in our rain chances, but an increase in temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your very latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Dog days of summer got your business needing help? Check out Indeed, an all-in-one hiring solution that makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 toward your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free. at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the biggest stories from the Borderland and beyond, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday, brought to you in part by Sergio Lewis Body Shop. Call the pros at 915-593-0191. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday at 4, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Instantaneous communication across the globe is an expectation and has been for nearly 2 decades, but it hasn't always been this way. It used to take weeks or months. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show. We do have those phone lines open, even if we've been having some difficulty with the reception on our end. If you call in, we'll get you on the line here. So again, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. If we had any issues with anyone, if you're feeling frustrated on it, again, perseverance is about the only thing that delineates those who get on the line and don't here. So again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some of the big subjects we're, of course, talking about here today, of course, the Beto bomb, as it's being called by some, or the swearing incident during O'Rourke's campaign stop in Mineral Wells, Texas. Not sure where we are on that actual progression of his semi-statewide, well, statewide for sure, but not the whole kind of extensive and in-depth statewide previous tours here. And a lot more. I'm sure this will become its own lightning rod in the continued progression of this campaign here. The fundraising numbers, I wouldn't expect to see that this is going to be, I would expect this is going to probably be on a t-shirt before too long here. Maria Coleman saying that Beto has used vulgar language at other times. Tend to listen to the content of language by politicians or celebrities. They are crude in public. I speculate how bad it is behind closed doors. And sure, while, choice of language may not be the core thing I look at when it comes to particularly the policies of a politician, if they could talk the most sweetly things about the worst policies, and I'm still not going to go with them for it, I would say as much as character counting has been brought up recently is important and significant in its own rights. Yeah, the way they handle a subject here, I'll be willing to more than a little bit allow an outburst or two there before it starts really starting to color in my judgment here. But let's say there's been more than a few in this particular case here. I'm not going to totally say that the person laughing out loud was totally correct either, as much as I am on the record as disagreeing with the analysis provided there. Yeah, I can think of a better time and place, even in a protest way, to do it there. Some more of the comments here coming in, including Ted Corsing with the way law enforcement is today. I would not say anything to them either. Again, to make it perfectly clear, a lot of people that disagree with the people taking the Fifth Amendment tend to use it as well, clearly they are therefore hiding something. And that may not even necessarily not be the case, but by saying that by taking the Fifth, that they are essentially admitting guilt is literally not how it works. So if I find myself in a situation under congressional investigation, you may find me saying similar type things. I have no idea what that circumstance is. I guess the nice thing here is that with me, usually what you see is what you get, and I don't have a lot of deep, underhanded dealings that could ever get me there. Or anyway, Barrick von Holstein-Rathlow asking a little bit earlier, always wondered why the Brady bill didn't try to outlaw 22 caliber revolvers here. I mean, if you believe the analysis, it'll bounce around the skull a bunch, but let's just say trying to make that be a reasonable defense weapon, not gonna work out that well for you. One of the other issues, of course, coming up here, as much as we had that very concerning incident literally right across the street from us earlier today, where 5 went to the hospital after a smuggler SUV, kind of looks like I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for naming a brand here, looks like a Chevy Tahoe, for our news partners over there at KFOX 14, crashed into the corner of Como's right across the street from our station here. Not a great thing happening there, but the fact that we've been wondering about some of these questions related to the microprotection protocols, MPP, so-called Remain in Mexico policy. A little bit, maybe some more answers coming out about that, even if there are still a lot of issues south of the border here that could be further affecting that situation. Among other things, El Paso Matters reporting as of today that asylum seekers won't be returned to Mexico while immigration cases play out. Subheadline, DHS say it's phasing out the Trump-era migrant protection protocols, also known as Remain in Mexico, ever since it was announced by the Biden administration a little bit earlier this week that after the clearance of actually one further government injunction against doing that in light of the Supreme Court decision out of the last term of the Supreme Court, that phasing it away, allowing it to go away, what would actually happen next? Didn't make it very clear on what the next steps would be, what the real impact on this region would be here, and a whole lot of those still saying it and dealing within the area, including from the Diocesan Migrant and Refugee Services. We've also talked with previously on the line here and on the show here. Some of the more clarified details are coming at that migrants who do not qualify for asylum will still be processed for deportation. But one of the things that the ombudsman doesn't address, what happens to those in the middle of the hearing process. Now, there are some issues going on in Ciudad Juarez on its own here. Again, from El Paso Matters on that Juarez water shortage worsens as temperatures rise, with some of their pictures going on with that. That water service may only be available for certain hours of the day or may even be at very low levels throughout the entire day. So that level of sanitation, and I mean, as much as there has been, I know some estimates had put it at were in the tens of thousands, even if those actually enrolled in the MPP system, because really the way it has been breaking down in and around our region, of course, leading up to this had been that, sure, MPP had been in place right up until about Title 42 came into place here, as there were also, of course, all those challenges coming up to MPP, but that the majority of those being encountered either at ports of entry or at, different border crossings, or even just at the border itself, or having to cross it, presenting themselves to officials, were getting deported or removed immediately. Doesn't even count technically as deportation at that point under the Title 42. So with that program and section of enforcement still kind of also maybe a little bit in limbo, or definitely being sunsetted, I'm not going to be surprised about that at all. The numbers of those over there, some of the estimates had put it up upwards of 40,000 waiting just within Ciudad Juarez, or that had decamped to there anyway, as they had been maybe previously removed along those lines here, making it seem like this could be a pretty big issue. But some of the numbers that have come out from CBP on the actual amount of enrollees waiting in Mexico, remaining there as the program, the nickname for it anyway, suggests putting about the 2,000, but that the total number of removals that had happened, or the clarification on that also would like a little bit more, because it was in the 100,000. So if those were based on the encounters removed or actual absolute people, that was not totally clear. And the difference there is more than just academic, because again, if we're talking about how many people have actually had to have been processed through, sure, that's its own concerning level. But if we were talking about the same groups in some instances having to be removed over and over again, I can only imagine that is incredibly demoralizing for the Border Patrol, CBP members, ICE, even all those agencies involved in it, having to continually do that, feeling like making it a Sisyphusian effort, rolling that boulder up that hole, only having to have it roll back again. Yeah, I'm not going to imagine Sisyphus happy in that circumstance here. So that being the case, with those potential numbers still bearing out, probably even if we are considering multiple removals per absolute person, that 40,000 number would still more or less bear out. So how it's actually going to be processed through, what the impact's going to be on this side, or maybe if potentially that train has already sailed. Now, of course, we've been hearing increasing incidents coming out with those stash houses, and even with those, again, the incident happening right across the street from here. I'll have to go after our show today, maybe early tomorrow, see if I can see the crash into about the corner of the building at the Italian restaurant across the street from us here. So it didn't actually go into the building at all. Not that it looks like anyway. Let's see if any marks I can get a picture for y'all to put up on there. But the thing is that even going back to the San Antonio incident with the 50 plus dying after being abandoned in that trailer, the patterns may have already continued to shift from where those programs were effective as it is. I mean, the shifts that we have seen over, let's call it the last few decades, just simple terms like that, we have seen a shift from in general, because the individual circumstances are always different, but in general, those coming across individually, usually working age males, trying to avoid almost any interaction from law enforcement for whatever reason, but a good chunk of them to then essentially find a job, earn money, and then bring the rest of the family here. Those kind of circumstances coming out of the 90s, then into the 2000s when we start, and the 2010s more specifically, when we saw some of those, not exactly waves, but serious, well, actually maybe waves is the right thing. It started, of course, in the South Texas one. They reported on some of that back when I was still in my TV days, and the amount of unaccompanied minors, that crisis happening there back in like 2014 and even a little bit into 2016. But then even some of those patterns coming and starting affecting us here in the borderland more recently, as we saw the mass amount, the asylum becoming more of the focal point on this. And of course, the policies on there, as was brought up recently, zero tolerance, parts of it and waves we went through there. We're still seeing, and I have even seen and talked with someone recently-ish anyway, that still saw a group of people at, well, the border fence right there, kind of along the Paisano and Donovan areas, both of them, frankly, as people were just presenting themselves, hoping to immediately interact with a law enforcement member, Border Patrol in that case, to do an asylum claim, but still largely being removed under Title 42 at those points. So that's one of the finer ways it could change. But of course, the change we have continued to see is of those. I mean, I think it came out that perversely, that incident in San Antonio, where again, 50 plus. I mean, just in the smell apparently, and then being covered with actual like seasoning and like meat tenderizer to deaden the smell. I have literally no sympathy for anyone involved in the smuggling or the cartel operations of these. I do not like using inhuman terms, because we are still talking about people, and unfortunately thinking about them as people and not anything less as, but it's hot. It's difficult in those circumstances to not think about it that way, because the people who are willing to then make a buck off of that and can sleep at night, I cannot even begin to fathom that level of thinking, or just depravity, really comes down to it. On with that here. Catherine Coach is saying, yeah, the dollar speaks with it here. RJ also over on the YouTube saying that, referring to Beto O'Rourke here, saying the increase is settled, says the science is settled and everyone agrees the world is going to end in 2030 or in 10 years. Bothers me more than an F-bomb. Losing freedoms to save the world, that's scary here. I guess I agree with you in a certain way. Again, on the idea of the analysis of the policies. What actually you got, the way someone talks about it here, I mean, it could be someone that has the most unintelligible Southern drawl I've ever heard, but if I like their policies, I'm still probably going to at least consider it more deeply than someone who talks very sweetly, but is also talking about how they're going to like, eat my brain or anything like that. Not going to go and do the zombie vote anytime soon, even if they have the most eloquent speakers out of any. But I will say, yeah, foul language, as much as we got FCC requirements here, I'm not sure that I wouldn't let the shy swear word slip through. If we do a podcast, we can have some interest in talk about that here. But the issues that we are facing here otherwise, the serious issues that come along with it, whether it be these border issues, the economic issues that absolutely influence it here, and among other things, for Ciudad Juarez, if we have an inability to continue having, say, industrial production, that is definitely going to affect us here, even if some of these immigration issues and border security ones continue to evolve apace in their own right here. So I think we did have someone willing to brave our phone line here all of a sudden here. So we do have a caller on the line. Yes, so we'll try to get them on live here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hello?
Hello there. Can you hear us?
Yes. My name is Eric McNabb.
Hey there, Eric.
I called yesterday.
Uh-huh. I think we are having some issue with that phone line, Eric, so...
Hello?
All right, Eric. You know what? I think we're going to have to try that again here. Okay, apparently we are having more than a couple issues with the phone line there. Had been coming in clear beforehand, but with some of these, we have to put the phone on hold for the moment. No pun intended. Hopefully we can get this figured out before we get, of course, into tomorrow with Free For All Friday. In any case, we do, of course, have emails are open and available. I do read most of them, even if I don't always respond to them. If you want a response, let me know. Let me know if you have a specific point or priority you want to discuss there. Otherwise, we're going to try to deal with this phone line here. Might just be one of those first lines here, but we're going to have the monkeys and the typewriters in the back and the mechanics in the room try to deal with that here. Having some issues with that here. At least one more comment we'll get to here. RJ, on the idea of cartel coyotes rule and CBP and Texas National Guard just have to deal with it under the Biden administration, get used to car chases and stash houses and truckloads of migrants. That does seem the pattern that we are moving towards here, unfortunately, in this new evolution of the immigration situation and border security question on how it can be achieved and how it'll be done here. So tell you what, we're going to go ahead and take that last break of the hour here right now, trying to get to what we can, see if we can get something clean on the line here for y'all. But in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. RJ asking if the phone line, hit a phone line. Not that I'm aware of, but hey, we've had issues before. Technical stuff can happen. But in any case, back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A multi-vehicle crash on the I-10 eastbound at Trans Mountain has closed the right lane and a huge backup. Stop-and-go traffic mostly stopped with 20-minute delays starting at Vinton down to Trans Mountain. Not too many options there. South Desert Boulevard is closed southbound between the Loop and Artcraft still. Gateway Boulevard northbound at Trowbridge, an accident reported. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Jefferson High School grads, and especially you if you graduated in 1972. Your 50th reunion is here. Can you believe it? All grads are invited to join the class of 72 on Saturday, September 3rd at the St. Pius X Party Hall, 1050 North Clark Drive, from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. You'll relive the best years in a fun semi-formal event. That's Saturday, September 3rd. For tickets, contact Richard Marufo at 915-539-4853.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Apparently having a couple of phone line issues, which we are definitely going to work on getting resolved here ahead of Friday, that ever so important day when we do take those. We haven't focused on them as much recently, but I want to take this time to mention those couple other ways you can get on the line with us. we either have that pound 250 line. The simple way to use that is to dial pound 250. Has to be on your smartphone because it's a digital call, but dial those 4 symbols, pound 250 in your phone system. Call that. It'll ring. All you have to do is say the keyword Talk El Paso, and you can leave us a message day or night. But also, we have the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. So if you're listening to us through the app and you got your smart device that has a has a microphone on it, basically all it takes, you can leave us a up to 30-second message there. So if you prefer that way, we can play those on air. So if you really want to get something on there, make sure to do that. We're going to take one more stab at the phone line here. We do have James on the west side here with us right now. James, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Thanks for giving me time. How are you
Doing
doing?
all right. I think we're having that phone issue. So real briefly, if you can, what is it that y'all got going on?
Yeah, sorry about the technical things, but if you guys can hear me, I just wanted to call in and let everyone know about the petition drive that we are demanding a vote on the county hospital district's proposed certificate of obligation bond. For anyone who hasn't heard about this in the news already, the county government put out a notice of intent on June 27th that they want to borrow up to $400 million for the county hospital district, which would increase everyone's property taxes 22% on top of what you already pay the hospital district.
Tell you what, James, we're going to have to put you on hold there because it is not clearing up on our end. That appears to be on our end, folks. So we're going to get that looked at before we, of course, get into the show tomorrow. Not great, but what he was referring to there is, of course, there's actually elpasopetition.com is where that petition that's being mentioned. Call that person that I think John Browson had suggested I do so with in order to get that in. And so elpasopetition.org is petition he's mentioning there for University Medical Center for that up to $400 million. It's been referred to as about $345 million immediate ask, but the actual certificate of obligation could be up to potentially, again, that $400 million cap. And they are looking at a law passed in 2019 that does allow for there to any certificates of obligation to be put onto the ballot if enough petitions are put on there. I do believe it's they're quoting it as 25,000 registered voters, but I think it's a percentage of the last voter turnout kind of thing here. RJ calling this Throwback Thursday 1915 long distance calls crackling included. Again, we'll get that looked at for you all here. So well, live radio sometimes takes interesting twists and turns. We do the best we can. We'll definitely keep talking about the things important to you all. Again, if you haven't been with us on the other ways, including with the iHeartRadio app and, of course, on the social media where you can leave your comments day or night here, we're definitely going to be working on this and clarifying it there. Eric von Holstein-Rathlow clarifying for himself earlier that as both by pointing out that Brady and Reagan were shot with a .22 pistol. I will admit I'd forgotten about that a little bit before my time anyway, but I guess I'm not that surprised it wasn't actually included, given that that was it's not the usual way that crimes go down, I guess is the way I think about it here. But I think that's going to about do it for us here today. Again, we're going to get those, the monkeys and the wrenches and the monkey wrenches working on everything as soon as we can here. In any case, I think we'll have to leave it there for today and try again fresh tomorrow, as we are going to be, of course, doing Free for All Friday. We'll be taking your comments and calls as much as possible on the line with you here tomorrow. So that'll do it for us here today. I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We will do this again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday, as we do Friday on deck for you with Free for All Friday. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier multi-vehicle crash on the I-10 eastbound as the right lane still closed, and stop-and-go traffic from Vinton down to Trans Mountain with 15-minute delays. On the 54 Patriot northbound at Fred Wilson, a two-vehicle crash there is blocking the exit ramp to Fred Wilson. And Gateway Boulevard northbound at Trowbridge, an accident reported. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Have you thought about getting dental implants? Has someone told you that implants cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a tooth? Here's something much better to think about. Affordable dental implants from 1995implants.com. The El Paso Dental Office, where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are as low as $1,995 per tooth. That price includes the implant, abutment, and crown, which many other places charge extra for. At 1995implants.com, we also offer a free consultation, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing. 1995implants.com. You're going to love your new smile, and your friends and family will be telling you how great you look. Best of all, your dental implants are very affordable if you come to 1995implants.com. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station. News on the hour and a half, traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690, KTSM.
Titans go! When the Teen Titans go to the movies, they know the best way to travel is safely.
Hollywood, here we come!
Roger! And you know it's super. To keep your child safe, be sure to use the right car seat for their age and size.
Exactly. We're finally on the big screen.
Have a seat, my dude. For more information on finding the right seat, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Gotcha. That's a wise move.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio
News on the hour
690
and a half.
KTSM.
Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Attorney General Merrick Garland says former President Trump has been made aware of what was taken from his home in Palm Beach.
Copies of both the warrant and the FBI property receipt were provided on the day of the search to the former president's counsel, who was on site during the search.
Garland added that he can't provide any further information at this time regarding the basis of the search, but confirmed that he approved the raid. It's been widely reported that FBI agents converged on Mar-a-Lago Monday in a search for classified documents that Trump took with him when he left the White House. A man who tried to break into the FBI's Cincinnati headquarters is dead after an hours-long standoff with law enforcement. The incident reportedly involved the suspect firing a nail gun, then brandishing an AR-15 style rifle before fleeing in a vehicle. That turned into a chase along an interstate that resulted in the standoff. The death toll from flooding in Kentucky is now up to 39. That's according to a tweet from Governor Andy Beshear. The news came after it was revealed today the Commonwealth is finally out of the emergency phase of its flooding response. China says it has finished military drills around Taiwan and is determined to achieve a peaceful reunification with the self-governed island. Richard Kimber has more.
The conclusion of military drills is easing tensions about an escalation of military activity in the region, but there are still concerns over the economic implications of China bearing more pressure onto Taiwan. China has already imposed some trade restrictions on Taiwanese goods since the visit of US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Economists are warning that if those trade ties deteriorate further, it could cause severe disruptions to global tech supply chains.
A federal judge is ruling Walgreens can be held responsible for contributing to San Francisco's opioid crisis. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. President Biden is suspending efforts from Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp's attempt to block the Affordable Care Act's website from being utilized by Georgians. More from Liz Kennedy.
The Kemp administration recently submitted a $31 million proposal to bar residents from shopping for health insurance on the ACA's federal website. Kemp's motivation behind the proposed move was to open opportunities to private